Have you ever heard that phrase, time is money? Well, money is time, the time is the schedule, and the schedule is money. So my name is Kevin Johnson. I am the CEO of Leverage Consulting, as well as the creator of Leverage U, which is an online e-learning university or platform where you can go for your standalone courses and do things at your own pace, at your own time, to get the answers you need to grow your practice, leverage your practice, and take it to the next level. So I just finished up with a client, and we were talking about their schedules, and we were talking about time, and we're talking about production. And we went through about 5 or 6 schedules. And in going through that, I'm like, I have to share this. I have to fire up the video and do something and share this with folks. So in going through this schedule, we ended up figuring out that just one day, in one particular day, we found 100 minutes. So we went through the schedule, and the way the doctor is scheduled to walk through their day and see their patients, we found 100 minutes of time where they weren't utilized. Now you might think, well, this doctor must be standing around a lot. This is a doctor that actually is an insurance-free doctor. This is a doctor that also grew about $500,000 in the past 2 years. So they're doing quite well already. And even in their limited resource, meaning that they're going to move into another facility at some point, they will grow and expand their team. Even within their own facility and the way they're doing things right now, we found 100 minutes of time in one day where the doctor wasn't utilized. So when we take this and we extrapolate it, what's the likelihood that a doctor is going to have 100 minutes of time every day? They're not. But what if we said maybe 50% of the time? So you wonder, how do some of these doctors grow? How do they start to evolve? How do they take their practice from producing here to a higher level? Well, again, this is a doctor that's gone insurance free. This is a doctor that has already grown 500 grand in the last 2 years. So how do we grow it again? We found 500 grand, or we found 100 minutes in one day. And if we extrapolate that and say, okay, this doctor works 200 days a year. And if this doctor also produces, let's just say, and we're going to use we're going to use certain numbers right now. But if this doctor produced $1,700 an hour, we average it out for the whole year, they produce $1,700 an hour. And we're thinking about, how do we grow this practice? This is a practice where if we took the 100 minutes in one day and said half the days of the year, we would find similar things. And then we said, okay, out of 100 days, $1,700 an hour, and that's all a little more than an hour and a half a day. Do the math on that for a minute. 100 minutes, or a little over an hour and a half a day, $1,700 an hour, 100 days out of the year. That practice can grow $280,000 purely by utilizing their doctor more effectively and scheduling more effectively. So when we take these schedules and we actually analyze them and pull them apart, we have to look at the real estate that we have, the team that we have, and how we're utilizing our doctor. Remember, a doctor is the most limited resource we have. Yes, the chairs and the facility and the staff, they're all constraints, they're all bottlenecks or limited resources that we have. We can always move to another location. We can always hire new staff or additional staff. But the reality of it is, our doctors are our most limited resource that we have. So we want to utilize our doctor to the fullest extent on any given day. And it always works in everyone's best interest. There's so many benefits to keeping our doctor moving. And it's not a matter of how hard can we work a doctor or how hard can we work the team. Because anytime I've worked with a client and I ask the team, would you rather have a day where you stand around and the schedule's really not that full, or would you rather have a day where we have patient back to back all day long? The team always comes back and says, I'd rather have the back-to-back patients all day long, because then that way, by the time we start our morning, we're already looking at lunchtime. And by the time we come back from lunch and we get started with our afternoon, it's time to start winding down and go home. So there's more to this than just additional production. But if you're interested in how do we grow a practice, how do we get to the next level, that's one way of doing it, is looking at the schedule. Because then once you start looking at the schedule, you start looking at different ways in which you do things. You start looking at, I name my company Leverage, for a reason, because the doctors have to leverage themselves, and it's leveraging their time, it's leveraging their activities, it's leveraging the practice or the real estate that we have to make the most and get the most out of the practice, get the most out of our schedule, get the most out of our doctors. So when we pull this schedule apart, it should be a representation and a flow chart or a map of where I can see this doctor walking the whole day. And it takes the entire team, takes the entire village to ensure that our doctor can do this, because there's really only a handful of things that a doctor should be doing throughout the course of the day. The first thing that only the doctor can do is they have to diagnose and make recommendations. So that's one thing. Second thing, they have to actually provide the treatment. And the third thing, they have to provide a little bit of direction or entrepreneurialism, the leadership and management for the practice. That's it. That's the only three things they have to do. We can find someone to do everything else. And sometimes there might be things we're doing we don't need to do. So when you go back and look at the schedule, and if you're thinking in today's world, I'd like to make more money, you have to think about, it's not just about cumulative more money, but maybe it's more money in the time frame that you can actually is making more money in the time that you work. So when you think about that, well, if you made more money in less time, or if you made the same amount of money in less time, does that give you now time to go spend with your family? Does that give you time to go spend on your hobbies? Does that allow you more time to go on vacations? You might look around you and say, well, my kids are in high school and I only have a few summers left, and they will be off to college, and then they will find someone else and they'll get married and they'll be starting a new life on their own. So it's tick tock. At some point, I only have so much time left with my family because they're going to be going off and doing their own thing. Or maybe that you're doing a role reversal with your parents, and you start wondering, how much longer are they going to be around? And I need to spend some time with them. So when you think about this schedule and you think about the productivity, it's not just about making more money. It's about creating freedom. And the freedom is there to allow you to do the things that you want to do. Now, there's practices and doctors that I've worked with where they want to make the maximum amount of money. Some of them work 250 days a year. There are other ones that I've known that only work 150 days a year. And it's because they have children. It's a divorce situation, and the doctor wants to spend time with their kids. I admire the whole idea. It's fantastic. But that's what works for them. For someone else, they want to work 250 days a year. They're going to grind and grind and grind, but their goal is to retire at 50. And it's very possible they might do it. So when you think about what it is that you want most, one question I would come back to is, am I maximizing my schedule to get what I want? So if you're wondering how I grow, I went through the math at the beginning of this video. It's one way is to go back and look at the schedule and figure out, are you maximizing your time and investment of time in the office to get what you want? So again, my name is Kevin Johnson of Leverage Consulting and Leverage You. If you like content like this, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, because there's going to be more videos just like this coming out in the near future.